All right, another session with the crazy Dr. Krause. This on appendicular skeleton. Appendicular skeleton. Remember, axial skeleton, skull, vertebral column, including sacrum and coccyx, thoracic cage, including the sternum, and hyoid bone, right above the Adam's apple, right above the thyroid cartilage. Anything else is appendicular skeleton. So both the extremities, upper and lower. The pelvis, the pelvic bones, left and right, os cocci. Those are part of the appendicular skeleton. And that's what we're talking about today. I just want to run through this, pages 88 through 98, 88 through 98, so 11 pages or thereabouts in super simple anatomy and physiology, first edition. First edition. There you go. So the differences between the two extremities, upper extremity, lower extremity, once again, are a reflection of FFF. They have different functions, so they're structured differently. The anatomy's different. Pectoral girdle, that's the shoulder girdle. And it's the only direct connection between the upper extremity and the trunk is the pectoral girdle. The upper extremity is really pretty free. In fact, the only bony connection between the pelvic girdle, the pectoral girdle, it's easy to get those confused like I just did, and the axial skeleton is the joint between the clavicle, and the sternum. Everything else in the upper extremity, the scapula, for instance, is all hooked on based on muscles and ligaments. Great range of motion, but also much less stable than the lower extremity. Clavicle, also known as the collarbone, is one of the first bones in the axial skeleton that you need to be aware of. Then the scapula, clavicle is the collarbone. Scapula is the shoulder blade, what's known as the shoulder blade. You need to be able to identify a free clavicle, a free scapula, side it. Is it left or is it right? So you need to know at least two projections or parts of each of those bones, like in the scapula, the glenoid fossa, which always goes laterally, and the scapular spine, which always goes posteriorly. Upper extremity then, upper extremity. This is not an arm. This is an upper extremity. Layperson would call it an arm, but it's an upper extremity. This is the arm from the shoulder to the elbow. From the elbow to the wrist is the forearm. Brachial area, antebrachial area, carpal area, hand with the metacarpals and the phalanges. And the bone in the brachial area is the humerus, a long bone that you need to be able to side. The antebrachium has two bones. On the lateral aspect, remember, we're always referring to an individual or the body as if it's in the anatomical position. So the radius is thumb side. The radius is going to be lateral. In the antebrachial or forearm area, the ulna is going to be medially. Then you have the carpal bones, the wrist bones. There are 8 of those wrist bones. I think at an introductory level, I don't think you really need to memorize those. I think you need to be able to at least recognize that scaphoid or pisiform, lunate, trapezoid, hamate, capitate, that those are carpal bones. But as far as being able to identify them on a lab practical, I think that's beyond an introductory level. You need to know they're carpal bones, they're wrist bones, they're short bones, and they allow their shape is such. They're not irregular bones, but their shape is a little bit irregular, like the hamate has a hook on it. Anyway, it allows for the motions that we can do with our hand. And then you've got 5 metacarpals, and 14 phalanges. 4 fingers and a thumb. 4 fingers and a thumb. It's not 5 fingers. It's 4 it's 4 fingers and a thumb. 5 digits. 5 digits. And then continuing appendicular skeleton, let's go down to the pelvis to talk about the pelvic girdle. Left and right hip bones are os coxae, sacrum, coccyx, and the hip bones are joined anteriorly by the symphysis pubis, made out of fibrocartilage, which also makes up the intervertebral discs, as well as the menisci in the knee. And the hip bones are 3 bones fused together, the ilium, the ischium, and the pubic bone. You need to be aware of those, need to know their position, need to know certain parts of those, like the crest of ilium. Then you have femur in the thigh. Again, just like these are upper extremities, this is our lower extremity. It's not a leg. And the lower extremity has a thigh from the hip to the knee containing the femur. You need to be able to identify and side that femur. And then in the leg, which is knee to ankle, you've got a major weight-bearing bone, the tibia. Need to be able to identify that and side it. Is it a left or right tibia? And then lateral to the tibia is the thin support bone, the fibula. Then you've got tarsal bones, and you do need to know 2 of those. That's the talus, which articulates with the distal aspect of the tibia, and the calcaneal bone, or calcaneus, which is the bone that makes up the heel, and that's where the Achilles tendon that sometimes gets injured in athletic activities, or the calcaneal tendon inserts on the calcaneus, allows us to stand on our tiptoes, walk on our tiptoes. So that's appendicular skeleton. And I'll be back next time. We'll talk about joints. See you then. Crazy Kraus out.